Welcome to the Winning in Business podcast. I'm your host, Kelli Risse, and I love talking to business professionals, leaders, and entrepreneurs who are winning in business. Are you ready to reach your next level of success? If so, join us on the Winning in Business podcast as I interview entrepreneurs, business professionals, and leaders who share how they've risen to success. Before we begin, go ahead, hit subscribe and the notification button so you'll be notified each time a new episode is released. Plug in and settle in. You're about to be inspired to rise up to your next level of success. Hey, everybody, I'm so excited today. I have with me Chris Ruzicka, and he's the Director of Development at Carmondy MacDonald, which is a law firm in Clayton, Missouri, with 56 attorneys that do most of their business in the St. Louis area. Chris has 13 siblings and a servant's heart. He is extremely involved in the community, and he loves giving back and helping people. So, Chris, thank you so much for being on Winning in Business today.
Well, thanks, Kelli, for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. So my first question is, I'm an only child. So what was it like growing up with 13 siblings?
Crazy, very crazy. But you know what, Kelli? It really enables you to be a good negotiator, to be able to navigate different personalities, and to be flexible. But at the end of it was crazy, but a lot of fun. I had a great experience growing up.
That's fantastic. Where are you in the order?
I'm the 11th of 14. I have a twin brother who's 10th. He and even his wife say that he was the evil twin and I'm the good twin.
Oh, okay. Well, that's nice. Yeah. And so how, I feel like you said some of the things, but how did just your whole childhood experience of there being 14 of you influence where you are today?
Well, I would say, Kelli, it really taught me how to deal and manage different personalities. There's a couple in our family that are more introverted, but most of us are extrovert. We always had, even though we had 13 siblings, there was always people around the house. And so, you found ways to differentiate yourself. Because when you're in a pack of 14, you're constantly doing that. You want to be heard. At the same time, you want to be able to come in your own and be able to prove yourself, but also be able to differentiate yourself from the others. That's what we try to do in business.
I was just going to say that's exactly what we're doing in business. I feel like every day, we want to be heard. We're differentiating ourselves, within the industry. I know, from what I do being a coach, there's 100 on every corner. And so really it is about, differentiating yourself. So, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And kudos to your parents.
Right.
Your mother might be a saint.
Yes.
Yeah. So what led you then to becoming the Director of Development at Carmondy MacDonald?
Well, Kelli, good question. I had a pretty extensive career in consumer products with Anheuser-Busch and Sara Lee for about 20 years. And then I went into business to business and working for smaller organizations. I was actually working in Cortex, one of the fastest growing entrepreneurial spaces in the country, right here in St. Louis by IKEA. And unfortunately, after a couple of years, the company I worked for out of California went bankrupt. And I had two recruiters from two different law firms call me. And I thought, law firm, although I have two brothers that are attorneys and a sister-in-law, I thought, how boring can that be? Why would I want to work in a law firm? Well, more and more law firms, not just the large ones, and professional service firms in general, are using non-CPAs or non-attorneys to do their business development. And more I started talking to people that were doing what I was doing, that were not attorneys or not CPAs. They said, hey, it's a great gig. Use all the skill sets you have to really open doors for your attorneys. And so the more I talked to the recruiters, the more it sounded intriguing. And I actually, for a while, short time at Carmondy MacDonald, they asked me to do some contract consulting for less than 4 weeks. They surveyed the attorneys, and obviously I was adding value. And they said, why don't we hire this person full time? So that's how I landed at Carmondy MacDonald 5 years ago.
So for you, as the Director of Development with attorneys, what is the development for them? Can I ask?
Sure. We have a lot of attorneys that bring in their own business, but a lot of them, they have billable hours they're required to do each month, so they don't have as much time. So I'm really out there being the face of the firm. I'm kind of a matchmaker because sometimes people don't necessarily know what type of attorney they need. Sometimes they want an attorney that maybe has a similar background. They may want one younger, one more senior. So what it looks like is really someone that, first and foremost, I introduce our attorneys to those that need legal services. I introduce our attorneys to people that want to network with attorneys. And then I spend a lot of time introducing my network to my network, providing them ideas so that at one point or another, if they need legal services, they'll think to call me.
That is awesome. For you, I heard you talk about being with Anheuser-Busch, Sara Lee, so big companies, and, now you're with Carmondy MacDonald. What's been a big challenge for you in business? And maybe it's not right now, maybe it's over the years, but for you specifically, what was a challenge for you?
I would say, Kelly, I grew up in a family where hard work ethic. My father was a small business owner. He and my mom obviously worked very hard. And so all of us in the family are the type that did that as well. And so, I was so, especially with my years with Anheuser-Busch, I so much enjoyed what I did. I didn't have a family at the time. And so I felt sometimes I was catch myself working 7 days a week. And so I saw myself becoming almost a workaholic. So I had to step back and reassess what I was doing. And so that was a big challenging is, a lot of us love our work, but you got to have that, work-life balance. And so it took me a couple of years to figure that out. That I think was a big challenge. And then the other one, and it always continues to be this way, is navigating different personalities. Fortunately, as you become older, you've seen certain personalities before, and you know how to manage. I still make mistakes, but I would say those are probably the two things that I've had to overcome. One is getting a balance in my life, and then two, continue to negotiate the different personalities.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you bring both of those up. As a coach, it's definitely one of the things that I work with people on is we don't like to say no sometimes. You know what I mean? Like the guilt comes in, or we just want to do all the things. We're like, wait, that would be a really good experience, or that sounds fun, or all those things. And then we do end up overworking ourselves. I was actually also a workaholic at one point in time, and just things going on in my life and how I was living and doing that. I ended up in the hospital. And that is when I was like, hang on a minute, like you have got to start living differently, and you have got to start saying no to some things and take a step back. So I completely understand all the things that you were saying just about that. And I think it's so important for everyone to really take inventory of what's adding value and what's causing me more stress, or I enjoy doing it, but maybe now is not the right time, to help us keep our sanity. You know what I mean? Because I feel like in business, we have to be around for a long time, not only in business, but in life. Like our health is so important. So I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, good point, Kelly. I can't agree more. I just am a lot more productive when I have that balanced lifestyle.
Yes. It opens up space, I feel like, for us to be more productive, so that we're not feeling like the pressure and the closeness. Yeah. I don't know. Those are my words of how I describe it. Yeah. So, for you, what are some key points you would like to pass along to our listeners that have made you successful? So either maybe, if you were mentoring someone, you would share these, or just, what do you feel like has helped you along the way?
Well, I first should emphasize I'm still work in progress, even at my age. But I can coach, but sometimes I don't put it into practice. But I would say, to answer your question, really three things. One is, I help, especially a lot of people that are younger than me, most are, in how they build their network and how they go about approaching their networking. And I see on a regular basis those individuals, even people that are pretty senior, that have a real targeted list of who they feel they should be networking with. And they sometimes forget to go upstream. So let me give an example.
Okay.
It may be, I hear on a regular basis, people say, oh, Chris, my objective is to meet business owners. Business owners. Well, you know, Kelly, business owners like yourself are busy. They have their head down. But the way sometimes to be able to be introduced or to be referred to a business owner is by those that advise them. And so don't overlook the insurance salesperson or the accountant or the banker or the attorney. Network with those people. Those may not always seem obvious, but I can't tell you the number of times that I talk to people when I said, who do you like to meet? And they go right to the business owner. And they forget that sometimes a good referral into that business owner are those that service those business owners. So I think that's first and foremost. I think not only selling externally, don't forget you always have to sell internally your ideas. And so, you have internal audiences. So let me give you an example. I tell our attorneys here that, yes, you're trying to make friends outside the firm, but you also want to, especially the younger associates, you want to make sure the attorneys here, especially those that are partners, know what you're doing, what you're working on. And then if you have a good idea, that you sell that idea. And sometimes selling the idea isn't directly selling it to the business owner or to the shareholders. It might be first working others to get them on board to help you sell that idea. So that's number two. So I'm always selling ideas, and I've been in marketing and in sales, but you're always selling internally as well as externally. And then I always say to people, don't forget, almost put on a marketing hat. Every marketing plan that I've ever put together, I had a great boss who always emphasized, always try something new, something innovative on a small basis, meaning you don't spend a lot of money, you don't spend a lot of time, but try something new each year. Well, those of us in business development are in a business development role, regardless of if you're selling insurance, if you're a lawyer, if you're an accountant, if you're a business owner, try something new every year. But again, something that doesn't necessarily cost a lot, require a lot of time or energy. And then if it works, then the following year, what you do is invest in that. So let me give you an example. I coach a lot of our younger attorneys, our associates, and we're trying something new this year. It's a boot camp. Everybody's had boot camps for their younger associates or just people in general. But this one is a boot camp where we're asking each of the associates in the different areas of our law to get up and not just to our younger associates, but the whole firm, and talk about who's on your team in estate planning. What do you do for people? What makes you different? And then we're going to document those PowerPoint presentations into one document so that it helps all of our attorneys cross-sell, not just what they do, but all of our other services. So we're going to do this in an hour format, lunch. They'll get CLE credits, continuing education, but this is something new we're trying. If it works, great. We'll continue to do more of them. If it doesn't, right now we'll be out of a lunch and 1 hour of the attorney's time.
Yeah, I love that. As a business owner, I look at really almost everything that I do as an experiment, right? Like, let's try this, let's see how it goes, and kind of have a timeline in mind so that if it works, awesome, then ramp it up. And if it doesn't, it's time to move to the next thing. And I love what you said just about your boot camp. I feel like, thinking about my industry, the way you're talking about the lawyers and what they're doing, I mentioned that there's a ton of coaches and we all have different specialties, right? And when we can all sit down with each other and also hear what we're doing and who our target audience might be and who we're looking for in that same way, we can work together and really form those great bonds, and get to know each other even more, which I feel like is what part of the boot camp is doing for the attorneys as well.
Well, you bring up a good point, Kelly. I always coach business owners and individuals in general. I just mentioned this last week to someone that was in a sales position. They said, Chris, I don't know how I can find those ideas. And I said, well, even if you don't think you're innovative or creative, why don't you just call in 3 or 4 people for a pizza lunch? You tell them what your objective is. Here, you first lay out what you're doing now, and you ask them for ideas. Most people, even if they're not your customers or ever going to be a customer referral source, they like the fact that people ask them for their opinion. They may have some great ideas. It doesn't mean every idea that they give you, you have to implement, but call upon others. And again, it may take a pizza lunch and an hour at a time, but I know periodically I'm called into those brainstorming sessions just to give people ideas. First, lay out what you're doing so people can react to what you're already doing, and then ask them for suggestions, maybe just 3 things that you should be trying. So rely on other people.
I love that, especially someone who works by herself, as the solopreneur. Collaboration is important to me, and finding those people to come in and, over pizza or lunch or whatever, and just getting the conversation going and brainstorming and seeing things from a different angle that I may not see it, but someone else would notice that, could really help something in my business that I might even have blinders onto. So
yeah, Kelly, that's a real good point. I mean, I've even brought in outside consultants to present to our attorneys on networking and their business development. And somebody's like, "Are you going to put yourself out of a job?" I go, "No, you got to bring in a different perspective, especially if I've been here 4 or 5 years. Sometimes you need somebody to come in. And so I've done that, where I've brought in people that do what I do to give ideas to our attorneys.
Yeah, I think that goes back to how we can just have an abundance mindset, right? That it's okay to bring other people in and share ideas and all that. And your job and your position is still going to be okay,
Yeah.
and that really is a mindset around that.
Yeah, I think people appreciate it, that you bring in a different perspective, and that's part of my job, is to be able to constantly educate not just our young attorneys, but what those are seen. But I also do the same for those people I network with. I spend a lot of time, like I said, introducing my network to my network, and instead of just introducing to everybody, I'll follow up with an email after we've had our conversation, Kelly. Based upon the conversation, I'm going to send you an email with 2 or 3 people I think might be good people for you to connect with. But I tell them, look, I won't be offended if you say, Chris, at this point, none of them would be a good connection. But I always ask for permission first before I make an introduction, because I know everybody has busy life right now, and I want them to keep that balance that we talked about.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that question, actually, how you brought that up is for you, when after you've met someone and then you want to help them, because like you said, being that matchmaker, and then you want to introduce them to other, how do you keep track of all of it? Because I know that you are out in the community all over the place. You know so many people. Do you keep track of it, or after you make the introductions, are you like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, I've done my part, and then they'll take it from there. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, there's a couple ways everybody always says, let's stay in touch. And it really doesn't happen for most of us, including me. But what I do is a couple things to hopefully minimize that problem. One, I ask for the permission. We have several events here at Carmondy MacDonald. Last week, we had a young professionals event. I was only there for a short time because I'm not young and I'm not professional, but I helped coordinate it. It was very successful. In a month or 2, we have an event called Attorneys on Tap, which is really just a networking event. And so I first and foremost, when I meet people, I said, if you want, I'll put you on our invite list for some of our special networking events that we hold here at Carmondy MacDonald. So they are asked the permission. So then they go into my database if it's okay. I don't send them a lot of emails. They're not overwhelmed, but it is through constant contact, so they can opt out at anytime. So that's the first and foremost. I make sure that they're on, if they're okay with it, that they're on my invite list for events. And 99% of the people say, absolutely, Chris, I was networking with you. I want to meet more people. Get me on. So that's one that I stay top of mind with people. So at least every couple months, they're getting an email, and it's usually an invitation. It's not selling them anything. 2, we all use LinkedIn, but I make sure I link in with them. I usually, Kelly, at the end of the year, I do an inventory of everybody I've connected with on LinkedIn. If there's somebody I truly haven't seen or truly don't know, I spend the holidays, at least a couple hours in deleting those people that truly I've never connected with or most likely won't connect with again. But then at the same time, Kelly, if somebody's linked in with me and I haven't met them, I'll at least do a reach out. Hey, we LinkedIn. It looks like we have a lot of mutual connections. Maybe we can help each other. So I'll make it at least once or twice a year, reaching out to those people that I don't think I'll ever connect with, and just do one try. But to answer your question, how I stay in touch is invite them on a regular basis. On LinkedIn is another one. And then the other thing I do, Kelly, is especially during COVID, a lot of us met a lot of people on this format through Zoom. And a lot of us are reaching it back out to those people and say, Kelly, we've only met through Zoom. Let's meet face to face. And so one tactic I've used to incorporate and stay connected with a lot of those people I met during Zoom is, if you ask me, hey, Chris, let's meet for coffee. And I'll say, Kelly, you know what? You probably are in my situation. You probably have a couple people you met through Zoom that you want to now meet face to face. You're welcome to bring.
Because like you said, being that matchmaker, and then you want to introduce them to other, like, how do you keep track of all of it? Because I know that you are out in the community all over the place. You know so many people. Do you keep track of it? Or after you make the introductions, are you like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, I've done my part, and then they'll take it from there. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, there's a couple ways everybody always says, let's stay in touch. And it really doesn't happen for most of us, including me. But what I do is a couple things to hopefully minimize that problem. One, I ask for the permission. We have several events here at Carmondy MacDonald. Last week, we had a young professionals event. I was only there for a short time because I'm not young and I'm not professional, but I helped coordinate it. It was very successful. In a month or two, we have an event called Attorneys on Tap, which is really just a networking event. And so I first and foremost, when I meet people, I said, if you want, I'll put you on our invite list for some of our special networking events that we hold here at Carmondy MacDonald. So they are asked the permission. So then they go into my database if it's okay. I don't send them a lot of emails. They're not overwhelmed, but it is through constant contact, so they can opt out at any time. So that's the first and foremost. I make sure that they're on, if they're okay with it, that they're on my invite list for events. And 99% of the people said, absolutely, Chris, I was networking with you. I want to meet more people. Get me on. So that's one that I stay top of mind with people. So at least every couple months, they're getting an email, and it's usually an invitation. It's not selling them anything. Two, we all use LinkedIn, but I make sure I link in with them. I usually, Kelly, at the end of the year, I do an inventory of everybody I've connected with on LinkedIn. If there's somebody I truly haven't seen or truly don't know, I spend the holidays, at least a couple hours in deleting those people that truly I've never connected with or most likely won't connect with again. But then at the same time, Kelly, if somebody's linked in with me and I haven't met them, I'll at least do a reach out. Hey, we LinkedIn. It looks like we have a lot of mutual connections. Maybe we can help each other. So I'll make it at least once or twice a year, reaching out to those people that I don't think I'll ever connect with, and just do one try. But to answer your question, how I stay in touch is invite them on a regular basis. On LinkedIn is another one. And then the other thing I do, Kelly, is especially during COVID, a lot of us met a lot of people on this format through Zoom. And a lot of us are reaching it back out to those people and say, Kelly, we've only met through Zoom. Let's meet face to face. And so one tactic I've used to incorporate and stay connected with a lot of those people I met during Zoom is, if you ask me, hey, Chris, let's meet for coffee. And I'll say, Kelly, you know what? You probably are in my situation. You probably have a couple people you met through Zoom that you want to now meet face to face. You're welcome to bring one or two people to the coffee meeting with me, and I'll do the same. So we may have 5 people there. So you can really, without making it too big, you can re-engage with those people you met through Zoom, and save time at the same, at also kill 2 birds with 1 stone, basically.
Yeah, I think that's great. Another idea that I heard that I really liked too was, you have, I call them power partners, referral partners, whatever, those that are really the closest to you and people are using, and have a customer appreciation. So I might have a few clients that I invite, they have clients they invite, and then we all end up meeting each other. And now they just have a whole nother network. My clients have a whole nother network of people in their contact list. So if they need a lawyer, they need a CPA, they, you know what I mean? Like they just have now insurance, health insurance, like they've met more people. If they ever need it. And maybe they have those currently, and then something changes, then they need a different one, whatever, but they have those people. And I think that's a great way to involve your clientele as well into a situation like that.
Well, case in point, Kelly, tonight we have interns at our firm, a bank, an insurance company, and an accounting firm all of us reached out to each other and said, we all have interns this summer. Instead of our interns just meeting our folks, why don't we have an intern happy hour? We're all referral partners to each other. So we're benefiting each. So we have almost 40 to 50 younger people that are going to be meeting here in Clayton for a happy hour between 3 and 5. We've encouraged them all to wear their college jersey or their hat. Believe it or not, I'm gonna be there for a short time, and I have my T-shirt over here as well. But more importantly, these are all referral partners, and so we're trying to benefit each other by bringing all of our interns together who could potentially be hirees, and we're benefiting each other because we know how hard it is to find good people now. And so we're always trying to wine and dine our interns to make sure that when they come out of college, they think to come to us. And so this is one way we're benefiting all of the firms that are participating.
That's great. Oh my gosh, love that. So a question, as you were just talking, that came to me is, you talked about how you weren't able, you only visited the young people's, whatever, what did you say was going on?
Professional
people.
Right.
So my question for you is, because you're seasoned, we like to say seasoned, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you feel like has changed the most in business over the years? Like, is there one thing that really stands out to you that has changed maybe the way we do business, or how business is run, or just what it looks like in companies?
That's another good question. I would say the personal touch. I'm not going to say
has that changed for the better or the worse?
I think in some ways there's opportunities, some ways not. I see definitely a younger generation, some that really get it. They continue to pick up the phone. They continue to send notes. They're on it. But for a majority of them, when we're in this day and age we are today, as we all know, some younger people, it's harder to ask. You can say, hey, did you try to get a hold of the client or the referral source? Yeah, I tried 3 or 4 times. Did you try calling them? No, I didn't try calling them. And again, I don't want to say a blanket statement that all the younger generation is doing, but you do find that. I have seen the biggest change is the personal touch. I will tell people that if you want to break through, send a note, send a thank you card, send a postcard, or give them a call, or offer to meet for coffee. It's so easy for all of us, not just the younger generation, to hide behind our computers. So I think most people will agree has been, for somebody that season, the biggest change is there's, because of technology, it's good and bad, but one of the downsides is sometimes we lose that personal touch and we forget that's the most important thing. And even though everybody says, we're a relationship business, I haven't been in an industry that really isn't relationship business. So let's keep it that way, and continue to do a mix of both the traditional and what's been utilized and leverage of the new technology.
Yeah. As coming from the life coach perspective, that was one of the biggest things I feel like through COVID was the lack of relationships and connection that we were able to have. I mean, yes, it was on Zoom, and yet it was on Zoom. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there wasn't that personal touch of even seeing people. That was hard. That was difficult for a lot of people. I feel like when the world went back to normal, we just had a breath of relief of like, oh my gosh, we get to see people and connect with them and look them in the eyes instead of through the screen,
Yeah, I would say the other change, but I don't know if it's so much a change, but one thing to always note is that people say, Chris, you're an idea person, but I'll tell you, most of the great ideas I've gotten, especially here at the law firm, have been from the attorneys. I get ideas from other people usually. And as why not? If you see what's happening in another industry, let's say there's another industry that really targets the same market you are targeting. I'm always calling on them to say, what are you doing to make it work? They don't care if you steal their idea. You don't compete directly with them. But
Right.
I love the fact, I continue to see success where you're constantly asking others for ideas. Don't assume if you're a head of marketing, head of business development, that others don't know, have great ideas. Most of the ideas I've implemented throughout the years have come from the sales organization, or in this case, the attorneys. And a lot of times they're coming not from people that are just seasoned. A lot of times some of the best ideas are people that are new to the industry or are newly working in the workforce.
Yeah, that's great. Great advice. So we're going to go back to you for a minute. Are there any accomplishments that you're really proud of over the years?
Well, I would say, people say, Chris, gosh, you know so many people. Well, I say it's because I have 13 brothers and sisters and I'm seasoned or older. but I would say one of the things that I like to be known for is that I have some deep relationships. I feel comfortable that I've really worked hard at building some strong relationships. So if I have somebody that's a job seeker that needs to be connected, or I have an attorney that wants to be connected, or somebody in my network that would like to get into a certain company or meet an individual, I felt like I have strong enough relationships that I can do that. And so that's satisfying. And to be able to have people that respect what I've done and what I hopefully continue to do. So that's been the other thing I would say is, Kelly, one of my biggest accomplishments in recent years is working in a law firm and not only hopefully seeing some success, but also enjoying it. If you would have told me 5 years ago when the recruiter called me that I'd be enjoying it as much as I'm enjoying working here and doing what I do, and the best part of my job, in addition to bringing in referrals on a regular basis and coaching and putting on events, is it allows me to be involved more than I've ever been in the community and helping others. And so, that is a huge accomplishment. I would say third, for years, like a lot of people, I volunteer to help people in transition. So I always have 2 or 3 people in transition. And I remember, especially during the recession, it was so tough to be able to help people find a job. But even now, during the pandemic and hopefully coming out of the pandemic, I'll still get calls of people that have been let go or getting recently out of college and don't know where to even start. And it's, to me, is so gratifying that you get a call or an email 6, 8 weeks or a month or 6 months later and said, hey, Chris, I found a job and you helped. And then even if I just had a small part in it, that is so satisfying. And I always tell these people, I just helped a young person just recently, they kept saying, gosh, Mr. Ruzicka, I'm taking so much of your time. And I said, look, I'm getting more out of this than you are. I'm sitting on my rear and you're picking my brain, but you're the one doing all the work. So I would say those are the 3 things that have really been big accomplishments for me.
That is great. Chris, you are a joy. You're a delight. And where did we end up meeting? It was on a networking event. It was a virtual. So y'all, Chris and I actually haven't met in person yet. I hope that we can, because he, the minute I just really heard you talk and saw you in that meeting, I was like, he's an extraordinary man. I could tell you were a connector. You had a servant's heart, and you probably didn't even talk that much during the meeting, but I could tell that immediately. So it has really been a joy adding you to my contacts as well and knowing you. So I appreciate you. For all the listeners out there, you can connect with Chris on LinkedIn, and I'm going to add that to the show notes so that you can have the exact his LinkedIn link that you can just go right to. And as he said, he loves connecting people. So I hope that some of you will reach out and tell him that you listened to this podcast. Chris, any final thoughts before we wrap up here?
No, Kelly, just thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for all you do to help individuals as well as companies be able to be as productive with both their professional and personal life. So appreciate the opportunity again.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for being a part of the Winning in Business podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode and want to rise up to your next level of success, but are worried about increased stress, time for work and yourself and your family, not to mention being exhausted, I'd like to invite you to a complimentary strategy call where I'll show you how you can do it all. I'll help you reclaim time, keep your sanity, handle the chaos with ease, and move to the next level of success that you deserve and desire. I hope you found value in listening today. Please always leave your comments, feedback, or questions. We check them all. I want you to continue winning in business and reach your next level of success. See you next time.